What's going on, y'all? It is early in the morning. We have a lot of ground to cover. First thing we're going to do is hit a brand new store to me that just opened in Grove City. We're going to thrift there. We might hit a couple of other thrift stores in between, and then I'm going to scoop my oldest daughter, and we're going to go thrifting for some vintage wear, and I'm going to show you just what it's like to thrift vintage in Columbus, Ohio here in just a bit. Stay tuned. The first store I'm going to pop into is a new store in Grove City, Ohio. This is maybe 3 or 4 days after their grand opening, so I'm hoping to, find some leftovers. I know the grand openings are usually pretty busy, but I see a very big red flag already when I walk into this store, only 3 or 4 days into their open, and I'm going to start talking about it here in just a second. But getting a lay of the land, it's very clean. It's nice shopping in a clean and organized store. It's a little bit smaller than I had hoped, and Grove City's been looking for a Goodwill for a lot of years. It's interesting because down on Stringtown Road, if you're here locally, there was a Kmart that used to be on Stringtown Road that seems like it would have been the more appropriate location for this Goodwill. This is next to a Target in a shopping plaza. It is what it is, but I see a red flag after I sourced this excellent pair of UFOs. These are OMG Easies. I don't know exactly how you pronounce them, but I have these listed for $55. They're in pretty good condition. But I think this is the only item I find in this store. As you're going to see in just a second, they have an entire rack of these very generic Eversole t-shirts that they've got basically taking up an entire rack of a store, which is very perplexing to me because this store is brand new, and what they do for grand openings in my area is they hold back all of the inventory in anticipation of the amount of foot traffic that they're going to get for that opening day. And to see an entire rack of these shirts, and those of you that source here locally, they've been selling these Eversole polo shirts for years now. And I get it. Goodwill has to sell what is donated to them. But you mean to tell me 3 days after opening, they have an entire rack of these generic shirts where they couldn't get donations to fill that slot? You'll see what I'm talking about here in just a second. I'm really scrounging to see if I can find at least another pair of shoes. There were some Adidas that looked like they could have been okay. They had a little bit too much wear on the bottoms for me. I'm trying to be a little bit more selective with my footwear going into the fall, at least from a condition standpoint. So then I moved over to bags and backpacks because we are still at this point in back to school mode. I didn't see anything that I thought I could really work with. There's probably plenty of $20 bills hanging off of that rack right there, but I'm a dude. I don't know bags that well. I mean, I've had pretty good success sourcing, some of the old Coach, because I know vintage Coach is back in, and in some other stores, just picking up slightly more purses in general. I'm doing a little bit better there, so I am going to focus on that moving into the last part or the fourth quarter of 2024 and try to grow that part of the business. But yeah, there's nothing here on these bag racks that I love. Way too much wear on that. It looked like it had a Lucite handle, that purse, so that could have been cool. And I didn't see a brand. It looked like it was unbranded, but way too much damage on the outside. So let's put that back. I love that little owl bag. Some Minnie Mouse right there. Nothing else going on, but take a look at this. All of these generic shirts. I know you local people are like, why on earth are they still selling this stuff? I mean, these Eversole run shirts have been on the racks in our area for years now, and this is a brand new store with all of them. I don't run Goodwills. I don't know how it works behind the scenes, but I can't believe that they didn't have enough to work with from a regular donation standpoint to fill that rack. Big red sign. I'll pop into the Grove City store maybe in the next week to see if anything changed, but for now, we're going to hit up one of the smaller stores in the Hillyard area and see if we can turn our luck around, because I could only find that one pair of shoes in the Grove City. Although it was a good one, $55, I'll take it, but you spend an hour there, $55 is a pretty terrible return. So first thing I'm going to grab in this store is these Reebok Speed Pack dumbbells. These are pretty useful at home because they're adjustable. They have a base, so when you set them down, they won't roll around and move. And more importantly than any of that, there is a market for them still. So I'm going to list mine for $50. It's going to cost me $10. and there's a good enough market in the $50 range that I'm almost certain that they sell for that price. I was looking at this Blu-ray. I looked it up after the fact. There was no value. I thought the remote that was sitting there below it went to it. I don't remember if it did or not, because I think when I was looking at comps, there were different remotes with it. At any rate, I was seeing like $30, $35 comparables, and they had that listed for $13. So I had to leave that behind, and I'm gonna look, because this is kind of all new to me, as I don't go into this store that often. So like maybe there's something that is sitting there that I didn't readily recognize, but nothing doing. But I am gonna grab this interesting piece. This is a company called Funky Rock Designs, and it's a granite stone drink dispenser. Really interesting. Unfortunately for us, eBay is now producing sold results using AI, and so some of them are not even remotely close to what we're actually looking for. You'll see when I put comps on the screen that some of them aren't even in the vicinity of what I'm looking for. At any rate, those are good for $50, usually pre-owned. So I'm gonna list that thing for 50. But yeah, if you see some of the results coming up that have nothing to do with what I'm trying to help you with, it's because eBay is letting the inmates run the asylum again. All right, I'm gonna pick up a couple of media discs, some CDs, and then I'm gonna grab a cassette, some heavy metal, hard rock. This is Kitty, Spit. I think this is gonna be good for $15. I'll pop it in the CD and like let it play all the way through, because it does have some scratches on it, which normally doesn't, it sort of depends on the amount of wear you've got on the CD. I think it will play all the way through, but I'm gonna listen to it and let it play all the way through. And the same goes with this Courtney Love whole CD as well. These are both gonna be good for like $15, but with all of those scratches, I wanna make sure it's not skipping and there's no other issues. So once I know that those are good to go, I'll list them for $15. Those will be easy sellers, and I will disclose that there are some, I'm gonna call them, if it plays all the way through, I'll say it's minor scratching, and then just let the person know in the description that it did play all the way through and you're good to go. Same with the Alice in Chains Facelift cassette. When I opened it, I noticed that the cassette was cracked. And so there's a crack in it, but it's such powerful and like well-made plastic. So you can see the crack right there in the middle. This is another one where I'll put it in the tape deck. I'll let it play all the way through. This is an easy one for me to listen to because I love Alice in Chains. But once I know that it'll play all the way through front and back, we're good to go. Let's say 15 on that one as well. Normally, I wouldn't test them that thoroughly. Just let it play like first couple of seconds, first couple of songs, and then move on, and then you're good to go. But with the amount of wear we're talking about for all three of those pieces, I want to be a little bit more thorough so that there are no surprises when the buyer gets it on their end. Checking the Blu-rays, I don't see anything here that I recognize would have value. And as always, if you spot something that I don't, please call it out, because everybody is here to learn, myself included. But nothing doing in the Blu-ray section. And now I'm in, I think, the back of this store where we've got just baskets upon baskets of random items that are pretty low price. What was that, $1.99? There was no value on that NK Men. I looked up this hair gel wax, no value on that piece either. But I'm gonna grab this Mr. Clean. Take a look at this. Mr. Clean Auto Dry Refill. They have $1.99 on it, and I'm pretty sure that I can get between $20 and $25 for it. Completely sealed. These are the types of items that I love because nobody cares about them in the back. Just price it and move on. It's not exciting. It's very boring, but they butter the bread. So I'm gonna list that one for $20. And I tore through the rest of this because normally when you see an item like that, there's like 3 or 4 that are just laying around. Unfortunately, I couldn't find the second, the third, and the fourth, so there's only one that I could grab, but it's still $20. It has a good sell-through rate, if you will. There's a good amount of sales, so I'm not gonna have any trouble selling that. And we're hoping to find some diamonds in the rough here with these baskets full of a bunch of just random items. I love going through this stuff. You really do, I think, to an extent, have to really love the thrill of digging and the hunt to do this. Some people don't. I happen to enjoy it, and when you put the time in, you put the work in, you find things. So Slick Silver, this was an interesting, very vintage, and when I say very vintage, I mean I'm talking 1979. This Water maze. I'm not even sure what this is. This is the White Water Saloon. I think that's what they're calling that on the front. I don't know. Very cool. They had $9 on it. Unfortunately, I don't think it has any value. I couldn't even find any solds in the last 90 days. And I saw some listed for maybe like $15, $20. No go on that one, but Hive looks like a very good seller. So at $3.99, I'm going to pick this up, and I'll probably, I guess, pop it in there for maybe $20. But Hive, I don't know anything about that game. If you do, feel free to leave a comment. That is one I'm going to pick up because, again, there's a lot of sales to go on, and it's a new to me item that I think I can move quickly at $20. So for $4, hopefully it ships first class. I think the pieces were like, I don't know, they felt heavy, so maybe they're wood. But if I can ship that first class, even better, because then I think I move it faster. I'm always looking at bobbleheads. That's a Dale Earnhardt. It doesn't have any value. That DC Batmobile at the top, I think, was an item that was sold maybe at Ollie's, so like super discounted at that time. Probably didn't have very good retail success when it was brand new in whatever stores it was sold in, and then Ollie's bought the overstock. So no value on that item. And this store had a little bit of Halloween out, nothing that really looked like it had any value. Certainly nothing that I can use at home. I mean, I feel like I have a bunch of this stuff. I don't need any more decor, I guess, at this point, even though, you know, I say that and I come home with 2 pieces every shopping trip to continue to add to the mess that I'm making. And it might be a disaster, but it is my beautiful disaster. All right, let's leave this store. We'll head into the mothership and see if we can't squeeze anything out of this store before we take our next venture. And I feel like if I can just find at least one item that's in my average ASP in this store, which is around $50, I'll be satisfied. I was going to grab this. This is a cast iron, a very heavy cast iron. It's a candle holder, rooster candle holder, votive. But the solds on an item like this, I think, at least based on the eye test, depend solely on how good the paint job is. And that one wasn't in very good condition on the outside. So I'm going to leave it because the sole in that thing could probably do well on maybe Etsy. I don't know so much about Poshmark because it was definitely, I think, a vintage piece. I'll say definitely followed by I think. I'm pretty sure it was a vintage piece, but the paint job was bad, so I'm going to leave that behind. And then here's the $50 bill. This is the first time that I've ever sourced Lululemon shoes. These are Blissfeels. They are a women's size 9. You can see a little bit of dirt and a stain right there. I threw them in the wash, cleaned them up, and this is how they turned out. They look excellent. So I think I'm going to list those between $50 and $60. But what I'm interested in knowing is, for those of you that have put this shoe on, you're wearing them, you've worn them, how do they stack up against the other brands? I don't know any better because this is just the first time that I've ever seen them in a thrift store, so I have no experience with them at all. But for those of you that have worn them, the good, the bad, the ugly, let me know in the comments, please, because it's not a shoe I'm going to get. I'm assuming that they make both men's and women's variations. Looking at that, if you look at this New Balance, didn't that sole look like a Hoka sole? They were very, very similar to Hoka soles. Sorry, I'm getting distracted. But let me know if you've worn that shoe and the good, the bad, and the ugly that comes with it. So that we all know for next time. I'm going to move over to some of the carts before we are done. A lot of silver-plated silver. There are some Lenox Harvesty wheat pattern plates, both salad plates and dinner plates that I saw could potentially have some value. You can see that they have the gold rim. I looked them up and I just wasn't satisfied. I mean, there were like probably 10 to 12 dinner plates. Maybe I could have made something of that. I can't read what the sticker says on it, but I think they were $1.99 a plate. It seems like a hard sell for me on eBay, and then having to deal with all of the packing that comes with plates like that are delicate. I'm gonna move on. Let's go to the racks to see if there's anything here that I might be interested in, and then that's gonna be it for the thrift stores. I'm only just now noticing this after the fact, but that Playboy shirt looked like it was new with tags. I didn't see the tag on the back when I was blowing through this rack, so I might have looked that up if I had known it at the time. But it really didn't strike me as a shirt that had much value. Maybe $20 would have cost me $5. So let's just pass that up. But honestly, the Lululemon shoes, the UFOs. Like, I'm still coming away pretty successful on these trips, even though some of the stores, like, you know, especially the Grove City store, surprised me a little bit with all those generic shirts, but you can't win them all. All right, we're gonna switch gears a little bit and head into the Vintage Festival. So we're gonna show the local reseller community, especially the vintage kids, a little bit of love and maybe do some personal shopping. Let's get in there. You want me to put you on? I'll put you on. How you doing? This is your setup right here. Looks great. All right, we're gonna do a little shopping, okay?
Okay. I didn't get my banner up yet. I'm still working.
Busy. Busy is good. All right, Britt, what's the name of your shop?
This is Vintage Wore That, Brittany Greer.
What are you selling?
So I'm selling all vintage. There's nothing here that is newer than Y2K, so that would be 2010 and earlier. I go all the way back to the 60s, but I do hand select every piece that I have.
All right, and now after this setup at the expo, where are you going to be next? Do you have a show coming up?
The next one will be in Indiana. Check the page, check what Vintage Wore That. The vintage page will tell you.
Okay, we'll put a link in the description for you.
Yes, thank you.
You bet, absolutely. I was looking for a very specific John Jones t-shirt. I don't know if I would have paid the price had I found it, but we slid over to a place called Primo Dialed Vintage, and my daughter found a couple of shirts she was interested in. Kurt Cobain, we got Guns N' Roses here, so we scooped up a couple of those. Didn't find any of the shirts I was looking for. 9 Inch Nails, again, John Jones, but we had a lot of fun, saw some old friends, and that's what it's all about. All right, that's enough thrift shopping for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you are not a sub already, please hit that button for me. I appreciate each and every one of you. And I'm out. I'll see you in the next one.